not nervous, but excited before you get on there.
Same tingle.
For nearly 6 decades, Tom Jones and his wife Linda were inseparable. Childhood sweethearts who grew old together through fame, scandal, and silence. When she lay dying of cancer in 2016, she made him promise not to fall apart after she was gone. He agreed, but the cost of that promise has haunted him ever since. Now, at 85, living alone in London, Tom speaks to Linda's photos every night. His once thunderous voice trembles with sorrow. His health has faded, his heart is heavy, and the loneliness is slowly consuming him. What began as a love story for the ages has become a painful reflection on fame, love, and loss. A childhood born from coal and song. Tom Jones was born as Thomas Jones Woodward on June 7, 1940, in Pontypridd, South Wales, a town defined by hard work and heartbreak. His father, a coal miner, spent long days underground, covered in dust, while his mother, Frida, held the home together with quiet strength. Their world was simple, but filled with song. Welsh hymns and local choirs echoed through the valleys, giving young Tom a sense of rhythm and hope. The family lived modestly, surviving on his father's small wages. Even as bombs fell during wartime Britain, Tom's voice became the family's light. He sang in the church choir, impressing everyone who heard him. His mother often spent her few spare coins to buy him records or bus fare to perform at local gatherings. Though their life was marked by poverty, the music that filled their tiny home gave Tom a dream. One strong enough to rise from the coalfields to the world stage. The isolation that forged a voice. At 12 years old, Tom's life changed forever. Diagnosed with tuberculosis, he was confined to a small room for nearly 2 years. The disease isolated him completely. No friends, no school, no touch. He spent endless hours staring out of a window, watching other children play, while fearing each night might be his last. But within that silence, music became his lifeline. His parents bought him a record player, and Tom spent those lonely years listening to American blues, gospel, and rock and roll. Artists like Mahalia Jackson and Elvis Presley stirred something deep within him. He sang along with passion, filling his tiny room with sound and defiance. That isolation, cruel as it was, shaped the power of his voice, a mix of pain, hope, and longing. And during that dark chapter, a bright light appeared outside his window, a young girl named Linda, who smiled and waved to him each day, giving him the will to keep going. A teenage love that defied circumstance. By 16, Tom was restless, wild, and headstrong. School had never suited him. Dyslexia made reading difficult, and he was often misunderstood. He dropped out, choosing work over classrooms. He carried bricks, sold vacuums, and laboured long hours, earning little but learning everything about struggle. Through it all, his love for Linda grew. They had met as children, and their connection deepened into something unshakable. In 1957, when Linda became pregnant, the two married quietly. Tom was just 16, she 17. Their son, Mark, arrived soon after, and Tom took whatever work he could to provide. Life was hard. The small Welsh community was judgmental, and their tiny home was barely enough for a young family. But in the evenings, Tom sang in pubs and working men's clubs. Those smoky rooms gave him his first real stage, his first taste of applause, and the first signs of the destiny that awaited him. Linda, even then, stood firmly by his side, the making of a star. By the early 1960s, Tom's talent was too big for the valleys. He joined a local band called Tommy Scott and the Senators, electrifying audiences across South Wales. One night, fate arrived in the form of Gordon Mills, a London-based manager who saw Tom perform and was instantly captivated by his raw energy. Mills took him under his wing, gave him a new name, Tom Jones, and moved him to London. His first single, Chills and Fever, flopped, but the follow-up changed everything. It's Not Unusual exploded onto the charts in 1965, hitting #1 in the UK and propelling him into international fame. His deep, soulful voice and working-class image made him a star. Suddenly, the miner's son from Pontypridd was performing on The Ed Sullivan Show and recording James Bond themes. He became a symbol of 1960s glamour, confident, fiery, and unstoppable. But with fame came temptation, and his marriage to Linda began to feel the strain. Fame, fortune, and scandal. As Tom conquered Las Vegas in the late 1960s, he became one of the most magnetic performers on the planet. His shows were charged with energy, sweat, leather, open shirts, and seductive moves that drove audiences wild. Women threw undergarments on stage, crowds screamed his name. The man who once sang in tiny pubs now earned $100,000 a week on the Vegas Strip. But behind the glitter, his private life was unraveling. His womanizing became legendary. He later admitted to sleeping with hundreds of women a year, each affair cut deeper into his marriage. Linda, once vibrant and joyful, withdrew from public life. She avoided the spotlight, wounded by the endless betrayal. Tom later confessed that his infidelity broke her heart. Fame had given him everything: money, status, adoration, but at the cost of the woman who had stood by him since childhood. Their marriage endured, but it was scarred beyond repair. The secret son and public denial. In 1987, at the height of his fame, Tom had a brief affair with a young model named Catherine Berkery in New York. She became pregnant, giving birth to a son named Jonathan. What followed was one of the most painful scandals of his life. Tom refused to acknowledge the child, even after a court-ordered DNA test in 1989 proved he was the father with 99.76% certainty. For years, he paid child support but offered no contact or affection. Jonathan grew up longing for recognition, eventually reaching out publicly in his 30s, saying he just wanted to meet his father. Not for money, but love. Still, Tom remained silent. It was a side of him that fans rarely saw: proud, distant, and unable to face his mistakes. The shadow of that denial would follow him for decades, staining the otherwise dazzling legacy of his music career and leaving a son to grow up without a father's warmth. A voice that never faded. Despite the scandals, Tom Jones's musical power never wavered. Through the 1990s and 2000s, he reinvented himself again and again. Collaborations with artists like Robbie Williams and Van Morrison showed his adaptability. His 1999 album Reload became a global hit, selling millions and introducing him to a new generation with tracks like Sex Bomb. He received honours from the Queen, an OBE, and eventually a knighthood, becoming Sir Tom Jones in 2006. It was a moment of pride for a boy who had grown up in poverty. Yet even amid the applause, the emptiness lingered. Linda remained in the background, watching from afar as her husband conquered the world. Their relationship had shifted from romance to quiet endurance, built on decades of history and unspoken forgiveness. Fame had given Tom the world, but the one person who had mattered most was slipping further away. The promise that broke his heart. In 2016, tragedy struck. Linda was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. Within weeks, she was gone. Tom, devastated, cancelled his world tour to be by her side. In her final moments, she made him promise one thing: not to crumble after her death. "You can't fall with me," she whispered. He nodded, unable to speak through his tears. When she passed, he said it felt like the ground had vanished beneath him. For months, he could barely eat or sing. He moved back to London, unable to stay in their Los Angeles home, but he kept his word. He went back on stage, holding himself together out of love and duty. The pain, though, never faded. In interviews, his voice would break when speaking of her. Every night he talks to her photos, telling her about his day. He kept his promise, but it might have been the cruelest one she ever asked of him. The final years of reflection and regret. Now, in his mid-80s, Tom Jones lives alone, carrying the weight of his past and the silence of his loss. His health has begun to fail. He collapsed on stage in 2022 and has since scaled back his performances. Yet he still sings, driven by the memory of the woman who believed in him before the world did. His eyes often fill with tears when he speaks of Linda. "She was always there," he says softly, "and now she's not. The fame, the fortune, the knighthood, none of it can fill the emptiness she left behind." In many ways, Tom Jones's life mirrors the songs he once sang, full of passion, power, and pain. His greatest triumph wasn't on stage, but in love, and his greatest heartbreak came from losing it. Linda's final request kept him alive, but it also bound him to a loneliness that even music can't cure.